Alright, so update. Exhaust was off. Took a lot longer than I thought it would because fuck these things. I was holding on the exhaust up here and they were at a really stupid angle. So shit, I'm getting sick. Anyways, went ahead. First things first was I popped off the slave, which is up there. Got two of the bolts loose on this side, up here on top. I'm still missing the one over there, but I'll just do that one from under it because it's under these hoses, and I'd rather just get it from the bottom since it's only one left. And then after we pull off the exhaust, went ahead and, as you can see, got the drive shaft off. But before that, do that little heat shield that's over there. 410s hold that up. Next step is going to be doing, if you're watching this, do I need some flashlights? Flashlights, not flashlights, you sick fuckers. Oh my god. Shifter, and then the starter and trans should come off. Alright, so unfortunately I wasn't able to take enough video as I wanted to yesterday since the owner was here and we were talking and working, and I didn't really have a chance to record since, you know, no stand and whatnot. Anyways, once we got the car up in the air, I pulled off the slave cylinder, which is here, which would be right there, easily accessible. So, pulled off the slave, then from there the three top bolts on top of the trans. Moved to the underside of the car, pulled off the exhaust, which took a little bit longer than expected since it uses these kind of hangers, which are really fucking strange and a pain in the ass to pull off. Once the exhaust was off, we went ahead and pulled off the heat shield, which is this, which is held on by 10s. From there, we did the drive shaft. After that, starter came off, and then we just pretty much finished off with removing the trans. So the trans is out. Next step, let me just get under here so you guys can see. Next step is removing his clutch. So once we have the clutch off, replace the clutch and all that other good stuff that comes along with the clutch sub. Get the trans back on, get the drive shaft back on, get the exhaust back on, and then we'll be good to go. Hopefully I have enough time to finish today, which I don't see why not. But as always, following Murphy's Law, anything that can go wrong will go wrong. And thus far, everything has gone smoothly, so let's just hope it stays that way. Alright, so as you can clearly see, we have the old clutch right here, which still has some life on it, as well as the plate and the flywheel. So his complaint was there was clutch wasn't working, but he made an honest mistake. So if you ever have no clutch pedal whatsoever, no feeling in it, you should always want to check your clutch reservoir, because in his case there's nothing in it. But something I noticed yesterday but I didn't really pay too much close attention to was when I took off the slave. So you guys can see here the line is pretty goddamn old and frail and shit. But what I didn't notice was, as you can see, it's wet around the bottom, around the fitting. So it's been leaking clutch fluid, which unfortunately is why this is empty and why he had no clutch pedal. So realistically speaking, the clutch replacement was not necessary. But when he told me like he's gonna do the clutch, if he could bring it to me, I just said yes. I never really inquired as to why he did the clutch. So if this ever happens to anybody else out there, never shotgun a repair. Always make sure you are 100% sure on what the cause is before you start buying and throwing parts at it. So in his case, it's a $20 clutch slave cylinder and a $16 line from AutoZone, or online wherever you want to get it. While the clutch replacement wasn't necessary, he did go from this made in Korea stuff to the good old Exedi clutch, and pressure plate. Still has a stock flywheel, so before I put this on, I have to resurface the flywheel, but before that I have to make a quick run to AutoZone, so go ahead and order the parts, which hopefully get here tomorrow, so I can have this done and driving and out of the driveway tomorrow, so I can finish that white piece of shit over there. But the owner is fucking lagging in bringing me parts, so if I don't have parts for that by tomorrow, we start working on this thing, because I really miss drifting and driving and doing Z shit, which usually means just driving and breaking shit, but you know, whatevers. Alright, so as you can see, we are under the FC, and we have obviously a flywheel here, for those of you that didn't know what a flywheel looks like. So since he didn't get us a flywheel, we are going to go ahead and resurface it to the best we can without a proper machine to resurface it. So with an abrasion pad or an emery cloth, all we do is just scuff up this area here, which you can see is pretty scored pretty badly. As you can see, we kind of already started over here, so we're going to go ahead and do this all over to even it out, especially these scorch marks here, there. Pretty much everywhere, as you can see, there's still one left here. So we're going to go all around the mating surface where the clutch meets it. Essentially, when you do this, it has to be a non-directional finish so the clutch doesn't wear funky. Since the clutch has hash marks going in every direction, if you do this only facing one way, it kind of fucks everything up, and then you're doing another clutch. So, essentially, all you do is emery cloth, sandpaper, whatever, fine grit. You just scuff it up all the way around, cleaning it up, making sure you just wear down any hot spots so it's nice and even. And essentially that's how you resurface a flywheel at home or at home. So this is like a quarter of the way done, but we're gonna go over it about 2 more times and it'll be all good for the new clutch to go on, as well as the pressure plate. After that point, we'll put the trans on. Correction, we'll get rid of the bearing here, and then bear with me, we'll also do the throttle bearing that's behind me because the trans is behind me. And then trans on, exhaust, trans on, drive shaft on, exhaust on, and then we wait for tomorrow for the slave in the line. But a quarter of the way for today. Alright, so we already swapped out the pilot bushing and the seal, as well as doing the clutch release bearing on the transmission input shaft. Next step will be clutch. So I went ahead and did this because this is something that a lot of people think is easy, but gets done wrong quite often. So most important thing when you're doing clutch, having the proper alignment tool. Not just because you have a general tool you think it's going to work. No. Diameters are not the same on every single tool. So make sure you have the one that's specific for your car. In this case, Mazda-Trix, which provided the clutch kit as well as all the bearings and parts and whatnot, was nice enough to provide us with one. So shout out to Mazda-Trix. Thank you. So pretty easy is goes into here. Line up the splines. This end then goes into the crankshaft. And that's how you line the clutch. So I'll be showing you a little more details in a bit. Let me just get this on and we'll
Alright, so as you can see, we got the clutch and the pressure plate on. So the way I usually do this is I'll do the clutch and the alignment tool first. Make sure it's on and centered. Then after that, I'll slide over the pressure plate and get it on and get these, make sure, so I usually just walk on the bolts by hand first, and so they're all nice and on it. And then after that, I will slowly begin putting pressure going into star pattern so it's even. Once it's even, we torque it down, and then we are essentially good to go. So I'm holding the clutch in place, and I will slowly begin to tighten it. So again, The way I tighten the clutches is the same way you would do your tire, where you go in a star pattern. That good stuff. So bear with me while I walk this thing on and get it ready. Alright, and as you can see, the clutch is now on. Torqued, not just blasted on. Always torque important things. Wheels, suspension, motor mounts, trans mounts, transmission and motor, clutch, flywheel, and etc. Anyways, if it's really important, always torque it. So, clutch is now torqued, and now we are going to remove the tool, and as you can see, it just slides right out. And even better, it just goes. Damn it. Sorry. In, out, smooths in, smooths out, smooth in, smooth out, smooth in, smooth out. That's how you know it's lined. When it literally just goes in, slides right up, and bam. So you can see it's in all the way and bottomed out. The clutch is now officially on. Next step, which will most likely be tomorrow because it's starting to get late, and I have other things to do on the EK, which will be trans on, drive shaft, exhaust, drive shaft, heat shield, exhaust, and yeah, that's going to be it for today. We'll pick back up tomorrow. You guys can see trans is already on. So if you ever do this on your own, it's advisable to have the proper transmission jack. But if you don't do it by your own, it's always nice to have a second person. Always lube the input shaft before you put the transmission in. That way it just slides right on in, because no one likes going in dry. That's just not fun for you and the car, and it's not fun both ways. So now that we got that on, our next step is going to be getting the drive shaft on, and then from there I'll go head over to AutoZone, pick up the parts, which they called earlier, they're in, and then finish off the underbody, and then move up to replacing the culprit for the no clutch. Alright, so back from AutoZone, we got the line as well as the slave, which are left over there. So next step, rather, I had a change of plans. I'm gonna get the might as well do it now, that way, I don't know, this seems easier for me. Gonna pull off the nut here, pull off the slave, assemble it, put it on, and then get it back together. Just so that way, once I finish off everything under there, I'm able to bleed and ready to go. Alright, so if some of you don't know how to assemble a clutch slave cylinder for an FC, I'll show you as well as the line. You have the rod and you have the boot. The screw here is supposed to go in here, so slide this down over, twist it, push down, all the way around until you get to here. Then after that, you just slide it on over, same thing, get the boot over the groove, which is here. And then, voila. Next step, we're gonna take out this. So I know some people, or I want to say rather, you could bench bleed it, but then you still have to bleed out the master. So I do it this way, then bleed everything on the car together. It's pretty self-explanatory. This end, line goes on first. On. Then using, I want to say a 14? No. 16. Using a 60 millimeter. Correction, using a 17. using a 17. Nice and snug, but not too much because you don't want to strip threads. So obviously in the car, the next step would be loosening the 10mm nut that goes into here, pulling off that clip, sliding this in, inserting the clip, and then tightening down the nut, and that's pretty much it. Helpful tip: if the car's old or it's the original line, which in this case it was, penetrating oil so you don't fuck shit up. So as you can see, we got the line already loose. A little bit more, and anyways, it'll come right off like so. The next step will be getting the screwdriver between here, prying out this clip, and then that comes out. See, here's the side by side of the old one and the new one. So next step was obviously going to slide that in there like so. Clip goes on next, then the line, and then bolt the slave to the top of the trans, and that's how you swap or replace your... Alright, as you can see, the slave line are now on. Filled up with fluid, but so in order, you could probably, you know, flush out all the shit that's in it, and then drain it again, and then put new fluid in it, but we're gonna be doing that as we bleed. So I put in new fluid that's mixed with the old shit. Bleed the clutch until we have clear shit come out, and then pour more clear shit in it. Next step is drive shaft, then the heat shielding, then exhaust, then we'll get to bleeding. Alright, so we got the drive shaft and the shifter on, but of course, because of Murphy's Law, I took longer doing the shifter than the drive shaft, because that's just how dumb shit works, I guess. So the last couple steps we have left are putting the heat shielding on, the exhaust, and then bleeding the clutch. But if you have a pressure bleeder, clutch bleeding, or brake bleeding for that matter, is a one-person job. I don't have one here with me because, you know, I didn't think I was gonna need it. So gravity bleeding just takes for fucking ever, and it's about the dumbest way to do it. So I'm waiting for assistance that is on the way so I can bleed the clutch. But in the meantime, I'm gonna go ahead and fill the trans with gear oil, heat shielding, get the exhaust on, and then bleed the clutch, and we'll be good to go. So, you know, some people try to use like fluid transfer pumps or whatever, but for about $9 at AutoZone, you can get yourself one of these. All it does is just, it's here, just goes into the bottle, and doesn't really make a mess. I know some people prefer fluid transfer pumps over this style of pump, but I've just had better success with it, which is why I use this. So it's fill up the trans. So I totally forgot to show you guys a step. Anyways, I had Bay help me bleed the clutch. That's done. For my shits and giggles, mostly my shits and giggles, the exhaust is still off. And so we're just gonna see how successful we were here. Key in, make sure we're neutral, clutch depressed, and clutch in, first gear, clutch out. So anytime you ever do something like this, always, before you put it on the floor, turn it on, run it through the gears. So now we're gonna go second, third, make sure it goes in all gears, no issues. Fourth, fifth, and last but not least, reverse. So as you can see, we are pretty much set.
I like it. Look at her. On her phone. Yep, all that stuff that was exhaust, drive it on the block, and we're set. And everything's in, all said and done. Time to go for a drive. And that's it.